think people, fuck, you need you gotta get that shit out. All right, I'm Derek Mack and I'm 26 years old. Mental health for me, I think, is just your mindset and the way the way you tackle your day to day life. And that's when you discover obstacles, get over obstacles, where you handle trials and tribulations in your life. That all has an effect on us, in different ways. So I think however we, however we choose to tackle that and however that affects us, I think that all has to go in, and that all kind of goes in, and how what your mental health is. So for me, my experiences have always been kind of like a roller coaster, right? You get your highs and lows, right? There's some days where you're happy, you wake up in a great mood, super energetic, and then there are other days you wake up and you want to stay in bed, right? So I think I think it's important that I think it's important for everyone to be able to talk to each other about it. Um, for me, it can be I have those sad days, and for me it's just okay. Like I have these sad days, and what am I going to do to kind of bring myself out of the funk or kind of just get through, to the next day or to that next high point for me. Um, I think those lows come. Sometimes they come more often than others, but I think for the most part, I think for me it's just okay. I've got this issue. I'm dealing with something mentally. Whether it's a stressor or something I'm dealing with, in life, and how can I get over that? I've never been. I also have never been evaluated, and I think I think that's something that everyone should do, right? Because I think it's possible that there are a lot of people that are living with, some sort of mental illness or mental, defect, and don't know that, because you only live in your brain, you only have your experience, right? So you don't know what's normal, right? You have these episodes, or you may feel a certain way, and you don't know what that means, but it's hard to compare that to other people because you only live in your brain. So I think I think what makes it so difficult to understand symptoms or diagnose symptoms is that um, for you, like I said earlier, you only live in your own brain, right? It's hard to know what's normal and what's not normal, right? You may be going through a sad phase, and you're like, how do I differentiate, me just being upset for a second versus me actually having a chemical deficiency in my brain? So I think what's really important is that you are really open about how you feel with people. Um, if you're having a bad day, if you're sad, if you're depressed, I think you need to tell people that, right? So no one will know if you don't bring it up to them, right? Um, you know, it's hard to I think it's hard to figure out those symptoms if you're in that situation, because like I said, you just live in your own brain, right? You only understand how you feel, right? You can't compare that to other people. So it's just really hard to differentiate, what's important to me or what might be a symptom to me versus, whether this is normal or not. I think it's really important. I think everyone should always go see a therapist. I think, even if you aren't depressed or you feel like you are having any mental illness, or if even if you don't feel that you have any mental illness issues, I think it's important to always have somebody to talk to. I think a lot of times people deal with a lot of things internally, and it's really really bad. Um, it can be really detrimental to your health physically. I think I think mental wellness and physical wellness go hand in hand. So however you can do whatever, a healthy mind, a healthy mental state, I think is only going to beget healthy physical, right? Um, so I think medicine. I feel a little bit of ways on. I understand that medicine is there to correct the chemical imbalance in your brain, right? If you're bipolar, if you're Um, Sorry, if you're bipolar, I think it's those you take medicine to correct that chemical imbalance, but you also have side effects that go along with it too, right? So it's kind of kind of catch 22 in those situations. But I think therapy is really really important. I think especially in the Black community, it's important. Um, we have there's a stigma growing up, right? Most Black households that if you go to see a therapist or you talk about your feelings, there's something wrong with you, or you know, uh, my experience at least, if I ever brought up to my parents that I wanted to go see a therapist, I think the answer would always be, "You're not crazy," right? And I don't think that's the, I don't think that's the, I don't think that's being crazy or having mental episodes or mental illness. I don't think that's a prerequisite for therapy. I think everyone should have somebody to talk to, and that also goes along with the saying that men shouldn't hide their emotions. And I think that's something that we're tackling today in society now. We're taking steps toward it, but I mean, I think a lot of our family members growing up, especially the men in our lives, grew up thinking that men aren't supposed to show their emotions, and they held on to that. They held on to that for forever, and I think that manifested itself in a lot of different ways. Right? We have a lot of you know, I think everyone knows an uncle or father or grandfather that was alcoholic or like anger issues or whatever the case may be. And it's like, okay, well, maybe if they had went to see a therapist, maybe if they had taken some mental evaluation, and it's amazing to kind of see what like some people's lives would be like instead. Um, so I think just to tie it all in, like I think treatment, if you really need medicine, sure, but I think it's really important that like everyone goes to see a therapist. I think everyone needs to have that outlet just to vent. So I am not the greatest at this. I think, and I think this goes along with what I think this goes along with the stigmas that we have on like men, and not only men, just black men, right? Like black men go through so many stressors throughout every day. There's so many little things that people that we go through that we don't articulate. Um, and I think a lot of times it's always been expected for us to just kind of shoulder it and just kind of keep it to yourself, right? You go to the mall and a guy follows you around the store, like that can have an effect on you mentally, but that's not something that you're gonna run and and run and tell the world about, right? Because it's it's minimally upsetting, but it's not inconsequential for the most part, right? Guy follows you around the store, you weren't stealing, whatever. Um, I think things like that happen to men or to black men at a super high rate, and they just have to hold that stuff in. Um, so I think that stigma and kind of how society has been like that was kind of how I grew up, and that's something that I'm trying to that I'm working on to try to tackle. I think my first instinct is always to internalize, and then if I think sorry, I think my first instinct is always to internalize, but now I'm working on ways to talk to people. Keeping a journal is really important. I've got a notepad, the notepad app in my phone. Jot some stuff down in there if I don't want to write it. Um, I think a lot of those things, once you get it out there in the world and kind of let that out, I think for me at least, it's kind of a stress reliever. Um, and it's something I'm working on. Like I said, there are days where something will happen and I'm upset and I don't feel like talking, um, which is I think is a bad habit. So it's something I'm just trying to work on to get out of that habit of okay, I'm having this low moment. I'm having this period where I feel sad or depressed or lonely. Um, let's talk to somebody. Let's write something down. Let's sing a song. You know what I mean? Just there's so many different things just to kind of get the juices flowing again, and then get that energy back. I think people don't talk about mental health because of those stigmas. I think there's a stigma against black people. I think there's a stigma against men, where they're just supposed to internalize a lot of your stuff. And there's so many different reasons for that. And I think people are scared of those things. I think that the more that we start to have those conversations and to normalize it, though, I think it'll be more of a comfortability thing for people. I think there are people who are suffering now who feel like and feel like they can't say anything or don't know how to speak on it because there isn't, there aren't those conversations that are, out there. So I think, and I think it's really important that we normalize it. Those stigmas out there are really bad in society. I think there's a family aspect to it too, right? Like I think you have these stigmas, and it can go back to how you were raised or how you growing up. And if you don't have those conversations in the house, starting when you're younger with your family, with your parents, I think it starts there. If you don't have that comfortability, with them, and with kind of where you grew up and where you were raised, you take that with you. So I think society as a whole just needs to normalize making these conversations happen. It's okay to be unwell. It's okay to have a conversation about your mental health. And even if you feel mentally healthy, I think it's still okay to talk about it. I think anything you can do to just put your energy out into the universe, can only be a positive thing. And I think if more people, were open and upfront about how they felt and, where their mental, health was, I think society as a whole would be in a better place. So I think we all have suffered in silence before. We know what that feels like, and I think it's also like, okay, we've all suffered in silence before. We know how that feels like. But on at the same time, it's also, do you ever like I for me at least, I know that I can mask it in a way where, like, okay, if I'm upset, I'm just gonna go out and be super goofy. Like, I'm gonna go out and be jump off the walls and make everyone else laugh, and that kind of works for me. Um, but everyone doesn't have that coping mechanism. And also to you, right, to anyone else, you see me acting that way, you don't think there's an issue, right? Um, so I say that to say that I could see you or any of our friends, and you never know. Um, what I would say to someone who's suffering, what I would say to someone, sorry, what I would say to someone who's suffering in silence is just that you're not alone. Um, I think we all go through different times where we're upset or down, depressed, and you got to figure if it's happening to you, there are other people that feel that same way, and are suffering alone too. And if you go out there and talk to them, or get your feelings out, if you sorry, um, if you're just open about how you feel, with other people, it's okay. You've got friends. Just pick up the phone, give someone a call. Hey, I'm feeling a little down today. Just anyone you trust. I think I think that can just start a conversation. And I think if you've got a person that really cares about you, they'll be open to listening to what you feel, and work through ways to kind of get you through it. I think even if just they're the listen, right? Even if you've got someone who's just there who can be a sounding board, you know, someone may not always have a way to help you, and I think that might be a deterrent for some people too, right? Like, I don't want to say anything. I don't know if this person can help me. But I think even just getting those words out there, out in the universe, right, out of your from your brain, out of your mouth, I think that goes a long way into just verbalizing how you feel, and like, okay, I've said it out loud now. Now it's a little bit more real, right? I'm upset. I feel sad. I feel depressed. I can't get out of this rut. I think those things go a long way um, to have starting that conversation. And once you start that conversation, you can go anywhere with it. I think it's really important, just to know that you're not alone. If you're suffering in silence, good chances are this. Sorry, if you're suffering in silence, I think chances are someone else is too. So just have that conversation. I think I think being a part of this video is super helpful for me. I've realized that I need to talk about it more. Even just having this conversation right now, it's the first time I've had any mental health conversations in a really long time. So I think it for me, it's sorry. For me, it's an opportunity to take what I've learned here, take this conversation, and bring it into my group chats. With the boys, with my friends, with my family. Even this is just kind of a catalyst, And I think I can take all the stuff that I've learned today that we discussed today, and bring those out into society, and I think it can only have a positive impact.
Dope.